Wallabies and Los Pumas in the final game of the Tri-Nations 2020. I'll go over the squads, which I will chuck in the description as well if you want to check them out. Where both sides are sitting, the recent history, some interesting stats, and yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. It's essentially wrapped up for the All Blacks. Both these sides still have a mathematical chance to win the competition. Remember, prior to that last game where the Pumas lost pretty heavily to the All Blacks, every side was on 6 points. The All Blacks got a bonus point win and went on to 11 points. And their points difference is just phenomenal. I think both sides need to win by more than 90 odd points. One of them's 100. I forget which way. Maybe Aussie by like 100. The Pumas by like 90. So not really realistic for either side. My daughter's not happy about the fact that both these sides have to win by so much. Goodness gracious. So yeah, it's a pretty tough ask. But there's still one game left. Let's hope they finish the competition on a bit of a high. Because last week, 38-0, that was good for the All Blacks. And it was good to get the pressure off the All Blacks coaching team and Sam Cane and whatnot with his captaincy. But it didn't do the competition a heck of a lot of favours in terms of this last game having any real meaning about it. But let's still hope that both sides go out and try to finish the season on a good note. The squads themselves, the Wallabies have kind of made minimal changes from that side that drew with the Pumas a couple of weeks ago. You've still got Sio and Paenga-Amosa in the front row, but Alaalatoa and Tupou swap places, so Alaalatoa gets the start. Simmons and Phillip are the second row combo, but interestingly, Salakaia-Loto is back on the bench. Remember, he's been getting over a foot injury, so good to see him back before the close of the season. Hanigan, Hooper, and Wilson round out the front row. Goodness me, the back row. So Hanigan still gets that number 6 jersey. You thought maybe Salakaia-Loto could slot in there as well because he plays a bit there for the Reds, but just coming back from injury kind of makes sense to kind of ease him back into things before he's going to go on his either Super Rugby pre-season or his break, whatever it comes first. The big story, I guess, is that James O'Connor is back fit at last, and he takes the number 10 jersey off Reece Hodge. Reece Hodge is still in, and he still starts. He is shuffled to 15, which means he's in a familiar position for him. He's probably played more fullback than he has first five, to be honest. And Nick White is still there, number 9. Paisami and Petaia, young midfield, continues on. Petaia's look one of the more dangerous guys when you're looking at the kind of attacking stats. Koroibete and Wright. And Wright's been a bit of a revelation from what we've little seen of him in this Tri-Nations, but it's been good to see him step up to that level and really take the chance with both hands. Koroibete is always a threat. He's had up and down a bit in this competition, but overall, good to have him in the side. Fainga'a, Bell, and Tupou are the front row replacements. As I mentioned, Tupou drops down from the starting lineup. Salakaia-Loto essentially pushes Liam Wright out of the 23, because remember, they essentially played two loosies on the bench last time, and Hanigan was there to cover lock. Valetini continues on. Jake Gordon continues on. So there's still no Tate McDermott. He hasn't been able to win the favour of Dave Rennie yet, despite being the Form 9 in Super Rugby AU. He's only got that one shot from the bench. Simone is there back into the 23 after being dropped for the last game against the Pumas. So that means Lolosio is bumped out of the side, which is unfortunate for him. And Banks drops back from fullback with Hodge moving there. So Daugunu is likewise out of the 23. I'm assuming Hodge covers first 5. If anything happens to O'Connor, Simone can cover the midfield. For the Pumas, obviously there's been a fair bit of controversy around their camp this week. 3 players getting suspended for those tweets. We've done a video on that, so if you want to see more about that one, go watch that video. But essentially, it will be interesting to see what kind of reaction we get from the Pumas guys, whether this brings the squad who are available to play together. I'm sure they'll want to kind of make the news for their team about something positive rather than about something negative. They've got Tetaz Chaparro, who starts for Vivas. Vivas still there on the bench. They swap places. Montoya continues on in the number 2 jersey, and that guy plays 70, if not 80 minutes every game. Kodela comes back into the side, so Medrano has been dropped. Alemanno starts this week. He was on the bench. He comes in for Petty, who's one of the 3 guys who's out due to the controversy. Crema moves from the back row into the second row. He takes the spot from Paulos. Paulos is still there, but he is on the bench. He's relative newcomer to Test rugby. And the back row is Grondona, Isa, and Bruni. So Isa moves from number 8 onto the flank. Grondona takes the spot of Matera, who's another one of the guys, as I mentioned. If you haven't heard of it, yeah, that was massive news. Yeah, so he steps up from the bench, and Bruni is the only guy who comes into the 23 who didn't play last time. So he takes Isa's spot as Isa moves to the flank. The backs, it's an interesting one. I mean, because this game really doesn't have that much riding on it, I was hoping to see Miotti get a run at 10. If you haven't seen him play before, he was absolutely magic for the Jaguares. Once Nico Sanchez left, I know they had the other guy who I really like, whose name really escapes me right now, at number 10. But Miotti is a young, talented guy and needs more time at Test level. Could become a proper Test match fly half if given some more minutes. He is on the bench, thankfully. First game at the end of the tour, but it's still Sanchez, and Sanchez has been great. So I can understand playing him if you're really focusing on the win. Escura is an interesting choice at 9. He is still ahead of Bertranu. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I would have gone with Bertranu, but I'm not the coach. But I would have thought Escura for mine is the third choice guy. Obviously, Kubeli is injured, so I would have thought that puts Escura on the bench. But that is what it is. He gets a start, so let's hope he has a better game than last week. De La Fuente captains the side this week, which is great news. He's captained the Jaguares many times before. Good, reliable player, good guy to have the captaincy. He continues on at 12. Orlando comes in for Malia at 13. Boffelli moves from fullback to the left wing. Dalgui comes in for Cordero on the right wing. And Carreras takes the spot from the bench. He moves up to take Boffelli's spot at fullback. So a bit of shuffling around for the Pumas, man. And the bench, Chocobares is there. He's back into the 23. As I mentioned, Miotti, Bertrano, Corazon is into the 23. Paulos, Zeiss, Vivas, and Gonzalez takes the spot of Socino, who was the other guy involved in the controversy. I haven't seen Gonzalez play before. I think it may be his first game, but do let me know if that's not correct. I would expect Montoya to go long into the game as long as he doesn't get injured. Those are the 23s for both sides. I do think it's important to note this is the Pumas' 4th game in a row. That's tough by any standards. Like, that's tough at the World Cup. In the World Cup, you usually get one game against the side which is well ranked below you if you're a tier 1 team like both these teams are. So the Pumas would usually have at least one game which would be a relatively easier game. They've not had that, man. You've got All Blacks Wallabies, All Blacks Wallabies. That's very tough, and the rotation was probably a bit of a part in what cost the Pumas last week. It's really hard to play 4 games at this level in a row. They've made a lot of changes. They've had the controversy in their camp. So, and remember, this is a team which has been set up essentially to operate without a heck of a lot of possession, to take penalties when they get them, to be competitive at the restarts, and to rely on that defense being rock solid, which it has been up until last week when they conceded 38 points. Up until that point, the defense had been pretty phenomenal. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see how they go. As I mentioned, 4th game in a row. For the Wallabies, I mean, they had 63% possession of 70% territory in their last game against the Pumas. Could not convert pressure into points. That'll be a key focus area for Dave Rennie. The All Blacks managed to do that last week. They couldn't do it that week where they lost to the Pumas. They were anything but clinical. The Wallabies will be looking to step it up. Their line-out needs work. It's at 81% for the last game. It's been a bit sketchy. They missed 4 last time, which is pretty costly. And from their restarts, they're a team which is prone to conceding points straight after scoring, which is not what you want. So, yeah, I mean, on paper, you would have to say the Wallabies are probably pretty big-time favourites. I mean, if you look at the recent history between the sides, it's 5 games played in the most recent history. 3 of them go in the Wallabies' way. And there's 1 loss at the Gold Coast, which was a bit of a low point for Aussie rugby. And then the 1 draw, which was that game 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was a bit of a comeback story for the Pumas because the Wallabies, by all accounts, I mean, they look like they were going to really wrap that one up. I'm kind of scrambling because I've forgotten to write down the bookies odds. So I'm just going to look to see who the bookies have got for this one. Obviously, it's Australia, and the margin they are picking is by 13. 13 points. Over those last 5 games, the average has been 27-20. So it's closer than 13 over those last 5 games. In the most recent ones, it's a draw, and it's a 4-point win to the Wallabies. So recent history has been a fair bit tighter than that. But yeah, the extra rest with the Wallabies, the fewer changes, no controversy in the camp may put things in the Wallabies' favour. But yeah, I'm definitely keen to see some of the less experienced Pumas guys get one go as well in a game which, in theory, has a bit less pressure on it. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How do you think it is going to go? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.